of a contract. So that's where we're at. I put some examples of construction managers, people who wrote grants, and these are things that come into my mailbox. I have no relationship to them. They're just set as examples. In the back of this is the requirements that all of us who served as contractors in the heavy civil field are used to seeing all these documents and all the requirements to put together so that we have everything in order. We give it to the engineer or the construction manager or the city clerk, and they go through a process of approving it. As of right now, we have none of that. We get an invoice, and somebody thinks that we need to pay it. So it gets stopped at my level because I know better, and I don't want to proceed that way and hold payment up, and it's unfair to the contractor, but it's also unfair to the taxpayers that we have to go into this without all the knowns. We should know everything about a contract going in, and that in itself should be the prudent way of operating here. So my first question, and I've asked this question, and I haven't received an answer. Our present engineering firm, do we have a certificate of insurance for it? And this is to Mr. Blackburn.
That I would have to check with our finance director. She's off today and tomorrow, so I'll have to get back to you.
But I asked this question about a week ago. And I say this because I've seen this city go through the same thing. I've asked this question when I was on the other side of the podium. Do we have a insurance certificate indicating that our present engineer or any service contractor that we have here is on file with the proper insurances? And I could suspect that if you don't know by now, we don't. It should be an easy document to find. On top of that, we should have an errors and omission clause with an engineer, because an error and omission clause means that if he errs on a contract and it ascends to, let's say, just for giggles here, $500,000 in extras, and he doesn't have protection on his insurance for his mistake, the city pays. So
The city becomes liable.
the city becomes liable. If the product even becomes, if it fails, we build a bridge here and it fails because of an engineering practice, then we become liable. So these are just the simple, prudent things that we should be following. And right now, we can't get an answer if we have insurance on our engineering. So that's how simple this problem is, and that's how great it ascends to the other. If you're not even aware that your firms have insurance, then there's no way that I'm going to be able to talk to anybody here about waivers of liens, certified payrolls, schedule of value payments, et cetera, because what I've seen come across my desk, in fact, that was the reason why I held a duplicate check for $53,000 up, because it came with what I would call a Bernie Madoff type spreadsheet for payment for the interliner people, and you don't pay people like that. You have certified AIA documents that are notarized. You have the material waiver liens, waiver documents that we know that as we pay a contractor, he has paid his suppliers and he has paid his labor costs, and if we don't do that, then we're subject to repayment of that again. So that's how critical this path is if we're going to, and we're going to be in this business. The city is always into this business, but right now, as we grow our contracts and look for more opportunities to improve our infrastructure, we have to come together some way, shape, or form and get this, get it in the box.
This is great. Oh, sorry, please, go ahead.
The lead line project is a grant project, and I believe that's federally backed, right? So that's going to require what we call prevailing wage.
Yes.
On that, so that's a certified payroll.
Correct.
Project. There's a lot that goes into that, and verifying all those things and receiving the information with the sworn statements and the waivers as he's talking about. So
Yep.
it is a critical step for payment process. I'm required to furnish all the documents he stated every month, with backing of how the work is completed for us to get paid. So
This is great. So on the engineering front, this is great. Thank you for stepwise going through this. So on the engineering front, as it relates to our current agreement, which is something else that I think should be discussed in context of tonight's meeting, right? Because council and department, as you see the agreements in here, note the term, right? This agreement executed in 2021 with the 3-year window. Obviously, the term now is 30-day notice if we choose to go to another direction. And obviously, there's a lot of different financial breakdowns in the relationship we have today. But before we get there, so Treasurer Fonte and Councilman Cox, certificate of insurance, sounds like we don't have documented proof that that is on file, so that needs to be addressed immediately. And then the error and omission clause, is that something that's related or a separate clause that would be?
No, that's usually an attachment or a rider, or that's
Okay.
built into the contract, and those kind of things are all necessary. So right now, I question, do we have, one of the policies and procedures of running an office like this and the administrative staff is having a file for your insurance certificates and the service providers that work in the city, that they're all up to date with your calendars ticking off on expiration dates, because they all expire at different times. And
Yep.
so we have to be aware of that. That would be a function I would think that the city administrator would try to handle, or delegate to, but make sure that it's being done.
Those are clear, obviously, we can't take a policy, a motion action tonight, but those are clear action items that need to be landed immediately. Is there anything else, so certificate of insurance, error and omission clause, anything else with respect to present-day operation in context of our engineering agreement that should be flagged for risk?
I think,
Yeah, please.
if I may.
Yeah, please.
I think that our charter has the engineering department serving over the building department and puts some additional responsibilities on the engineer. And how we decide to craft that or handle that, or if we want to address that at this time, seems like the appropriate time, although there is obviously some difficulty with asking a outside firm to oversee another outside firm. There could be some challenge with that, and it seems like we've handled it in the past by just pretending that wasn't the case. I don't know another way to say it. Right now, obviously, we do not act as if the engineering company or engineering director is over top of the building department.
Yep.
So we've gotten away from that, probably out of necessity. If we had an inside engineer that worked here as an individual, it would be much easier for them to act as a supervisor for the building department, building services.
Yep.
But by having that as an outsourced, it's probably a necessity, and I don't know the likelihood of being able to get somebody internal. But as we've talked about previously, the engineering role within our charter is not necessarily a credentialed role. So they don't necessarily have to have a degree in engineering to play the administrative role that we ask them to play, or at least our forefathers that wrote our charter asked them to play. So that's just another consideration to add to what we're talking about.
It's a great flag. Practically speaking, have we seen any situations where that has impeded us in regards to like not operating by that structure? Or to your point, do you feel like we just kind of fell into that model because we're mediating between two third parties?
Yeah, I don't know the history of it. I don't know when we last had a building department. I believe that it probably wasn't that awfully long ago. It was probably 2015 or 16.
Yeah, I can't remember the gentleman's name that they had as the engineer.
I believe it was Chuck Earl, who's working over at Brownstown, I think.
Yeah, I think there was another gentleman there that, God, I can't remember his name, but I remember dealing with him and some of my issues. He was a young man and went on to, I would say a more flourishing job that would, pay because I believe he had a engineering stamp at the time.
We're talking Rick Novak then.
That's who we're talking about.
Got it,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's another action, is just take some inventory on historically how where and when we deviated and why. Because like to your point, practical terms in today, it's.
Yeah, but to Councilman's point, it doesn't, and we've had discussions, Mr. Cox and I, about the same thing. It doesn't have to be a stamped certified engineer. It's got to be somebody with construction management.
Yeah.
Experience. And with that experience, when it becomes a requirement to have a stamp drawing, or there's ways of getting that. You can push that onus back on the contractor to get that, or other people. So it's not that we have to have that in-house certified engineer, certified by the state of Michigan, but you have to have that person that has that knowledge of what to do when he's faced with that. Again, you can use that position for a variety of things around here. Oversight on your DPW department and other things within the community. So it has a great range of opportunity. And if that was the position that Mr. Novak was in the past, I thought it was serving well up until the time that, I don't know if, was it Mr. Earl that followed him or before that or what? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like from that point on, everything's, in my opinion, started to slowly implode, and there was the removal of that whole face of that department at some point in time.
Okay. All right, so then clear problem statement and lack of on-file documentation, right? What other potential problem statements are you seeing in regards to present day?
So let's do really present day.
Yeah.
I would say right now, we've experienced, just pull it out of my air pocket there, 6 major water main breaks.
Yep.
Now, we've asked this in the Infrastructure Committee several times. We've brought this up. I'll ask the city administrator, have we been tracking and putting these repairs on a drawing? Have we identified them on a drawing so we have historical reference where these water main breaks are occurring, and we can track for historical reasons of when somebody said, well, the main's 50 years old. Well, that's okay, but how many breaks are on it? How many Band-Aids are on it? That should be really the question, because you could have a brand-new line in there, and you could have material faults with it, and it might be a warranty fault, or it might be just bad pipe, and to say it, you know, it's got 20 breaks in it, then, and it's only 20 years old, you might have another problem. Your soil conditions might be acidic and so on and so forth. A variety of things. That's why you keep this data. But are we doing that right now?
The DPW keeps track of them on the GIS
Currently?
currently.
All right,
That's
very
great
good.
news. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so that's a problem statement, right? I agree. So that gives you over time documentation of breaks and potentially variables that were related.
Right.
What other problem statements are we facing today in current model?
Well, again, it becomes the construction management of it. The whole focus of construction management is a field in itself. And it has its tentacles into the finance department and the boots on the ground and you know, how these projects are awarded and because you got a great infrastructure committee here, but the infrastructure committee has no teeth. And so everything that we bring up, if it doesn't get promoted in some sense or form, it becomes an action that eventually members will want to disappear, and you got some real experienced people in that group, so you don't want to lose that. But you also need to, you know, have these meetings routinely. The public is welcome, but there's got to be some action that promotes the necessity of having that committee and taking some of their consultation to heed.
How can we fix that if we could stop there? Because I haven't had a chance to be visible to what the operation. So where does that falling apart? What can we do to
Well, we
fix
haven't
that?
had a meeting in, how long, John? Long time. 4 months. Yeah.
Why are we not having meetings?
No idea.
Are you leading that effort on the Infrastructure Advisory Committee scheduling and,
I am working on it.
okay.
Yep.
Is there a reason? All right. Well, that's clear in
This is
action.
one of the things on my to-do list I'm
Done through Vince.
trying to get done.
I mean, I think that's an obvious and easy action, right? We have a great group of experts that can help put input, so if
But,
that,
you know, more so, the bite of that committee, I think, is paramount. So it's not only just having the meeting, but where does that action go from that point on? And the biggest thing with a committee meeting like that is the minutes. You know, there seems to be, when we have the, you know, and I've noticed in a lot of our meetings, department head meetings, or so on and so forth, the lack of minutes is non-existent, and it doesn't get distributed, and there's no action that's, you know, that's forwarded. So you invent a can every meeting, which is not good. And I think a lot of people sitting on this dais right now would agree that that's a potential problem.
why don't we talk about this? So why would we not have, for example, a monthly meeting? Like, there doesn't seem any reason why you wouldn't, just like we do with all of our other standard meetings. And then why don't we have that monthly meeting with the next step being minutes and action item proposals for council, and we feed it in the next council meeting? It'll completely disarm the lack of pull-through or perceived lack of pull-through, and the frequency will hold a day and time.
Well, I agree, and I'll make another stretch here, like the department head meetings. I don't know why minutes aren't taken there and forwarded to council people. There's only one council representative there, and in my opinion, these are real fruitful discussions. and they're getting better each time. But
Agreed.
the lack of communication to stretch to the other 6 council people or other 5 council people, I think it's damaging, it's problematic that they don't get that information. A case in point, I thought we had a pretty good meeting last, but the council attendee was Councilman Valentine, and that was it. So how does the rest of the council people get their reach on that? So
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
you say the same with the infrastructure committee and so on and so forth, you know? At least with like the department head meeting, and you have a council person there, it might stretch out. I know there's council people on the infrastructure committee, but at the same time, you're just missing a step there, you know? Somehow we got to bring that to a full circle.
Agreed. All right, so we got documentation on the insurance clauses, et cetera. Then we have main break documentation, which is actually happening in GIS. We got infrastructure advisory committee. We should take a look at that, Mike, and just why not establish a once-a-month frequency? And then the minutes are captured and shared with council, which will make sure council has collective visibility. What other problem statements are we seeing that we want to address?
I want to piggyback off what the treasurer said for the construction management side of it. We are getting geared up to start projects, whether it be roofing projects or parking lot projects. We still have the grant for the water main that we need to get through. But with these projects coming up, I do think it's a topic we need to address to assure that we're getting all the information and paying the right bills accordingly based on how work progresses, right? So I think that's one of the,
I love
Well,
that.
yeah, so let me highlight on that because
Yeah.
you made a good point. So the other day, for example, I'm in the office, sitting at my desk, and Chelsea feeds me all the information. And
Yep.
we got great communication in that office. All I have to do is ask a question, and either Amy is right there or Chelsea's right there.
100%.
All great things that happen. But I'm looking at this from 30,000 feet. If I'm not that treasurer and there's another treasurer sitting in there in the future, what happens with this process? Because I'm attentive to signing a check and know the responsibilities that go with it, I dare ask how the next person's going to be. So I always look at it under that lens. So I get a bill invoiced, and there's attachment to it. It's for Flow Air for, I think, $45,000 or something, okay? Now, my memory isn't the greatest in the world. I don't know why Flow Air, I got an invoice here, but it's just an invoice with a check on it.
Yep.
Now, in my business, that would never happen, okay? You would have the whole file with you attached to that $45,000 check.
Yep.
And I wouldn't have to yell out into the office there and say, what's this, what's this, what's this?
Yeah.
It so happened that Mr. Cox was there and City Manager Blackburn was there, and they were able to answer my questions, as was Amy. But the system shouldn't be running that way. There should be a file procedure on a check like that that should accompany with the backup information, and that should be standard operating procedure. Had I not been the treasurer that I am, I would have just signed that thing because it was sitting in front of me, and that's how business was done in the past. And that's why, a lot of these things that we uncover here now, have some magnitude to it. So it's a simple procedure, it's an operating procedure, and everybody is attentive to try to fix it. But the only way it gets fixed is if I continuously ask that question. There's not a procedure for it. And there should be no check ascending to the check signers without not only the approval of the departments, but the necessary backups to them.
Exactly.
And I'm afraid that our staff doesn't know all that because they have never been trained in that atmosphere before. And right now, we're naked of that standard operating procedure. And I could say this much, you better fix it because there's going to be checks in the future for whatever reason, large checks. And one of these days, something's going to happen and it's not going to be good. So these are triggers that I'm noticing only because of my background. Absent my background, checks would be signed and
Well, agreed, and you want a procedure that's going to live on forever with whoever is there. Why don't we fix that? That seems like a very solvable problem.
yeah, we should.
So how do we work on, can I help with partnering
No,
with you? and, like,
that's, to me, that, when I look at the policies that we have in the charter, it falls under the city administrator, fix it.
Okay.
You know, standard operating procedures, and I've made offers before to say, hey, if we can't do that in-house, let's bring some experts in here. They, you know, these plans, you know, I wrote our standard operating procedures for several companies. I'm not gonna do it here. You know, time and so on and so forth, and I'm not gonna be responsible for that. However, there are people, there's firms that do this and so on and so forth, that could come in here with a package, I guess, you
I
know.
don't think we need to reinvent the wheel on this one. This
No,
is something
not
that's
at
a
all.
very standard operation for many companies. So I would say that's another action we can take away that's very obvious. And then we can look at where procedure lacks or where abiding by procedure lacks to work towards the solution on that problem. Okay, so that helps with the background information and the department head approval. As far as the other stuff you mentioned, both Councilman Cox and Treasurer Fonte, general cost, right? We have an agreement for which cost structure is defined. Where are the problem statements there?
I'll jump in there
please.
if I could. This McLean score sheet, I presume you found this somewhere, Treasurer Fonte?
Yeah, I'm pretty much proposing the same questions that I proposed to councils in the past when they were jumping into getting an engineering thing. I did that as a citizen and you know, made points and sent correspondence in and tried to lead some direction on how to ascertain pricing and so on and so
So
forth.
is it fair to say that this cost comparison was prepared with this bid submittal?
Yes.
So a couple of things I noticed just right off the bat, two things that just jumped out at me is the additive percentages that are in the contract, you know, 2%, 6% for this, 6% for that, 7%, 2, 3, 1.
Yep.
Cost plus 15. None of that is itemized on this cost comparison or on the category weight spreadsheet. Also, if you, I just noticed this, if you kind of set side by side the cost schedule that's attached to the contract and you set it side by side with the cost comparison sheet, the numbers don't match. They've increased somewhere along the lines. So use general civil, for example. The cost comparison sheet says 94. The attachment to our contract says 98 to 108. So even if they chose the lowest end of the spectrum to quantify their cost comparison sheet, it's gone up by anywhere from $4 to $14 an hour. So I don't know whether this got supplemented somewhere along the lines without council's approval or with council's approval. I don't know if there was a supplementing, but I would think that our clerk would have a history of that. If it was approved by council or brought to council, we should have a resolution on schedule for that. But these numbers don't match. Did you catch that?
Yeah. I caught it way back when it was presented to council and,
Oh, I thought I was cool for catching it now.
no. But you're cool for catching it now.
Well, so then, perfect. So that'd be another example. So we have mismatching information from a cost structure, and so we'll need to get the inventory on when that was changed, if it was changed or approved.
Right.
And then the bigger picture is taking a look at the market opportunity for our actual negotiated rates and structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to put any words in Clerk Tomasik's mouth, but I think it's pretty easy to say that we've gone through and investigated to see if there was any more to Raines' contract than we have here now, right? And so I don't think we're going to find anything.
We should feel that what we have in front of us this evening is everything we can locate. Okay. Obviously, again, we can't take any policy action tonight, but I think it's obviously something that council needs to consider action on addressing said.
No, and, you know, this
level
presents,
contract.
like, for me as a check signer, when I start looking at the invoice, the numbers are all over the place. So, and again, you know, I haven't completed my review of the middle jib water main, but I can tell you the information I have, it's, you know, percentage for survey, percentage for this, time and material for that, it's all over the place. And somebody's deciding what is good for them, and I don't know if it's good for the city. So there's no way you can make this comparison, because only one person is doing it, and that's the person that's going to want the payment, so.
I think it's a blessing that we have the expertise we do in our administration now, so it sounds like we can take a critical look at that element, both on the cost and then the broader, I would say, forward-looking path.
So, out of all this, the intent tonight was to try to educate council on, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yep.
A tremendous amount of moving parts. And if you're not in that business, or if you're unfamiliar with it, it's a real tactical error. And people, contractors, prey on that. So when contractors see an opportunity, they're going to take that opportunity. If they don't have the right engineer or construction manager in front of them, they're going to take every advantage within their legal limits to do that. And I think every business drives the same way, because every business needs to make a profit. And to exercise your contract to the fullest extent and prey on people that are unsuspecting or having a weak engineer that doesn't do its due diligence, and we leave open the pocketbooks of the taxpayers, and that's not a good thing to do.
Absolutely agree. All right, so to summarize actions, City Administrator Blackburn, I want to make sure we're clear here. You need to make sure we land certificate of insurance and any error or omission clause. You also need to make sure, maybe you can send an example to council on GIS documentation for water main breaks, just to make sure we're accurately capturing that information, recognizing maybe historically we did not. We need to get the Infrastructure Advisory Committee formally and frequently together. So I would encourage Infrastructure Advisory Committee to have a once-a-month schedule. And then when the minutes come out, council can have those minutes, and we have individuals that sit on that, council members and others, treasurer, that could make sure we get visibility of the actions so that we can keep an eye on this and any sort of pull-through needs. On the, you mentioned roofing project or other projects we have in flight, you've highlighted the SOP requirement. We need a SOP on invoicing for projects. And we need to make sure that we have accountability on people abiding by the SOP, because he's getting, and obviously co-signed checks with Treasurer Funty, he's getting invoices that don't have the right backup documentation.
Yeah, that invoice he was talking about, it was for material, and I had went to the job site and verified all the material was on site before I even signed it. That was just a material invoice.
But just from a broader perspective, a systemic perspective, right? If we're not here in the future, we need a policy that guides what.
I think the guidance is pretend you're not here.
Exactly.
And the system should work without somebody being present.
Precisely. And then, so that's another action. The cost structures, like Councilman Molnar just flagged a mismatch on cost structures. Looks like we have the most paperwork we have is sitting in front of you tonight. So I would recommend council is looking at all of our matrix and professional services. Why would we not take a critical look at this? We're already past the 3-year term. We're operating on, frankly, a 30-day window. Let's take a critical look and understand the marketplace and the cost structures accordingly.
So a couple
Yeah,
of comments
please.
that, or thoughts anyways. Insurance is not an easy subject matter. Insurance, the mecca of insurance in America is in Chicago, and it is a complex thing. So when you're looking at certificates of insurance to compare them to what we're looking at, the certificate is just that, it's a certificate. And so if you think that you're gonna compare insurance coverage to a contract based on looking at a one-page certificate, you're getting a very, very tiny glance at something that is easily scannable and editable.
Yep.
You have to get riders on your policy binders in order to have effective coverage. One of the biggest tools that contractors, owners, engineers, cities, entities use is their insurance agency firms that work with them and ask them to shoulder some of the burden of reviewing these. So rather than us try to double down and make sure that we understand when we don't have, I dare say we don't have experts in the insurance industry that are with us on a day-to-day basis in
Yeah.
administration, having the opportunity to put those in front of our insurance agent and say, hey, will you review this for us? And if we're paying them premiums north of $100,000 a year or whatever that we're paying them, it's probably a common core expectation of them to help review insurance submittals. Because if, to Rich's point, if we're requesting an errors and omissions policy, and we see their certificate come through, and we see that they've got general liability, commercial auto, they've got property coverage, they've got workers' comp, they might even have an umbrella, they might have certain things that are pointed out on your initial certificate. We need to ask for a endorsement or a rider on their to have properly bound coverage, listing us as primary and not as a subjugation. So it's a complex topic that there's not a lot of internal experts that I think that you'll see in cities or in many businesses. So we rely on the people that we pay major premium dollars to help us review and implement the proper standard operating procedures and insurance coverages. I think that that's something that we might want to rely on, is getting a closer relationship with our agent and putting some of that burden for reviewing those insurance issues. But they got to know what they're looking for. So
To your point, good call out. I've got a call, Amy's got a call into our insurance agent for another matter, and I think we can blend this in because
I like that.
that's how it should be. We have to have experts because in your nice parsing of words there, contractors can fraudulently mark up an insurance certificate or a bonding certificate, and it's only good for the paper it's written on. So the experts will do a deep dive and call the bonding companies and the insurance companies and everything else. In my past life, our insurance, our bonding agent that we would have would do that due diligence for us. But for one of the questions I had was for like certifications. We worked with our insurance company that would handle the notification of all our certifications, because they're liable for that. And if it falls out of our realm for not having people that are CDL certified or fire department people that aren't certified and so on and so forth, then they're on the hook, and they don't want to be on the hook. So usually they partner with you, and we'll keep a spreadsheet list with triggers on it and everything else. In the same realm with the insurance, we can have that into the conversation. So let me handle that one for
I
right
love
now.
that. Weave it into that planned meeting, and City Administrator Blackburn can make sure we get whatever information prep for that.
Well, I'm going to keep going
Yeah,
down the
please,
list if you
yeah.
don't mind. The infrastructure schedule, I want to be conscious that we're not overburdening Mr. Blackburn with too many meetings. You know, when you have an 8 to 10 hour day and your goal is to get stuff done, if you have to stop and have three hour and a half long meetings, you just reduced your day to 2.5 hours of productivity after maybe eating lunch at your desk. We may not have to have Mr. Blackburn attend every meeting. And that can be a conversation that you guys have in the office, or we can have here in front, you know, by all means. But too many meetings probably cuts down on the amount of stuff that we're asking him to do. At the end of the day, hard to get the work done and attend all the elbow, you know, rubbing too.
I don't disagree. I think he's an essential player for the discussion in many ways, but to your point, yeah, looking at that from a time perspective.
Could be a review of minutes. If we
Exactly.
have somebody that takes minutes on it, and he could comment from the minutes and take two minutes to jot down some notes, thoughts, and could have a somebody that he works with that could attend those meetings and give him the Cliff's notes for it.
I agree.
Just a thought.
I agree.
Standard operating procedures, again, these are specialized stuff to review this. Not just every type of contractor is doing work for large infrastructure projects for communities and things of that nature. So this municipal work, when trying to comply with all the requirements, is a burden on those contractors, but then the burden comes back on us to hold them accountable to make sure that they are satisfying all the requirements within those documents. And so it makes us has to be an expert at the same token. And it looks like we're getting close to the 6:30. But it makes us also have to be experts on it, and that's a heavy lift. When we have to try and be experts. The contractor just has to be an expert at the infrastructure industry, which is not an easy challenge. That's challenging. But we have to be experts on recreation, you know, DPW, streets, insurance, legal. We have to have the full gamut here, and we don't have the same size staffing as some of the larger organizations. So we may have to rely on an outside expert to review some of these things, whether it is somebody who, as Rich mentioned, might be somebody in the construction management realm, or somebody who's got owner's rep experience, or, you know, a part-time engineer with or without credentials.
Yep.
That has experience in this industry, that could be an on-site resident expert for us, something to consider, because it is a big burden to do those jobs. And we do large jobs like that, the administrative side of it, for, you know, you're doing a $2 million job, the administrative side of it for a construction office might be every bit of 400 to 500 man-hours for somebody in an office to address. For us to put 400 to 500 man-hours on somebody to hold them accountable, we don't have that.
Nope.
We just don't have that in-house.
Agreed.
And then lastly, on the cost, you know, to your point, it might just be time to put something out for bids and have a new cost structure that we look at.
Sure looks like that. Council, any other comments, questions on the topic at hand? All right, this is great discussion. I got a list, we can circulate some minutes from obviously the meeting tonight for consideration. Thank you all for the study session. At this time, I will close the study session core and open up to public comment. Is there any members of public? We have a study session that we just talked about engineering services, construction management services, and project outlines. Any public comment from our study session? Going once, going twice? No comment. Council will be looking for a motion to adjourn our study session, and then we'll have 10 minutes before our council meeting.
Just adjourn.
Okay, then we just adjourn, no motion, since we can't take any formal action in study sessions. Members of public, we are going to now close our study session, and we will begin our council meeting at 6:30. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And I'm going with everyone else. I am calling home. I don't know you from. Yeah, I just wanted to know if you were right, because I'm being accused.